If someone had told me a year ago that I'd be pouring my heart out to strangers on the internet, I probably would have laughed. But here I am, reaching for clarity in a situation that's eating away at me day after day. My name's Matt. I'm 30 years old and I work as a high school teacher. It's a stable job, a fulfilling one most days, and a huge upgrade from what I used to do. I used to be in sales, late nights, weekends, high pressure. After our kids came into our lives, I made a conscious decision to switch careers to something that gave me time. Time for my family, time for myself, time to actually live. My wife, Lauren, is 29. She's a physical therapist working at a nonprofit that helps underprivileged kids and families. Her heart's in the right place. She's smart, compassionate, and deeply committed to her work. But lately, that commitment has come at a price. She works 40 hours a week, and on Fridays, she picks up a separate gig as a pediatric PT under a 1099 contract. She says it helps with bills. I know it does. But I also see the toll it takes. We've got 2 young kids, ages 3 and 1.5, both adopted. Both a blessing and a storm wrapped into tiny, beautiful human forms. Our lives are loud, chaotic, messy, and wonderful. But they are also hard. And when I say hard, I mean really hard. Lauren often says she feels like she's drowning. Between her job, the kids, trying to keep up with friends and family, house chores, it's too much. She doesn't say it with anger. Usually she says it with exhaustion. Quietly, like she's afraid admitting it makes her weak. But I see it. I feel it. That's why when an opportunity came up last August, I thought maybe, just maybe, it was the miracle we needed. The school district I work for had an opening for a physical therapist. Same line of work. But with drastically better conditions. The salary? $85,000. That's $20,000 more than what Lauren currently makes. The benefits? Full health insurance, dental, vision, a pension plan, summers off, winter breaks, spring breaks, federal holidays, weekends, and the schedule, Monday through Thursday, 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. In other words, dream conditions for a working mom of 2 toddlers. I couldn't believe it when I first heard about it. I sent her the link immediately and she said she'd think about it. I tried not to push. I just said, it could change everything for us. You'd have more time, more energy, more life. She applied, she interviewed, and she got the offer. I was thrilled. But then, she sat me down at the kitchen table one night. Her face was tight. Her hands fidgeted around a cup of tea. I remember how cold the room felt despite it being August. I'm not going to take it, she said. The words didn't register at first. I blinked. Wait, you're not taking the job? She nodded. I thought about it a lot. I don't think I'd be happy there. Why not? I asked, genuinely confused. She sighed. It's a school system. It's rigid. There are rules, protocols, bureaucracy. I'd be working with kids under IEPs, probably not getting enough time with each of them. It's not what I signed up for. I like where I work now. I like my patients. I feel like I'm doing meaningful work. I sat back in my chair and stared at her. On the one hand, I admired her passion. On the other hand, I was speechless. But you're tired all the time. You're stressed. You keep saying you want more time with the kids. I know, she whispered, but this just doesn't feel right. I didn't push her. I didn't yell. I didn't guilt trip her. But I felt something shift that day, inside me. A little crack, a fracture I couldn't ignore. Because deep down, I knew she had just turned down a lifeline. Not just for herself, but for all of us. After Lauren turned down the job, I did my best to move on. I told myself it was her choice, her career. I didn't want to be the kind of husband who tried to control her path. I respected her passion. I really did. But over time, the decision became a wedge between us. Not openly. We didn't fight about it, not directly. But it showed up in small ways. In silences, in sighs, in missed moments where we could have connected, but instead drifted further apart. Lauren's schedule didn't change, and neither did her stress level. She kept working 40-plus hours, and kept doing her Friday contract work. And the complaints continued about exhaustion, about never having time, about how she felt like she was always giving and never getting a break. Meanwhile, I was trying to keep our household running smoothly. I took on more and more of the housework. I managed the bills, planned meals, scheduled doctor appointments, made grocery runs. I did daycare drop-offs and pickups, changed diapers, handled the late-night fevers. And most of the time, I did it without saying a word. But I started to feel invisible. One night, after we got the kids to sleep, we sat on the couch in silence. The TV was on, but neither of us were watching it. Lauren was scrolling her phone. I was staring at the blank screen. Then, out of nowhere, she said, "I'm so sick of this routine. I feel like I'm living the same day over and over." I looked at her. "You could have had a different routine." She narrowed her eyes. "What's that supposed to mean?" I hesitated, then said softly, "You know what I mean." She didn't respond, just turned her attention back to her phone. The conversation ended there, but the tension lingered. That was the first time I hinted at how I really felt, and it didn't go well. From that point on, things got a little colder between us. Not all the time. We still laughed occasionally, still hugged, still worked together as parents. But something had shifted. The worst part? I started dreading coming home. Not because I didn't love my family, but because I didn't know which version of Lauren I'd be walking into. Some days, she was okay, tired, but okay. Other days, she was short-tempered, snappy, angry at the world, and mostly at me. I tried to be understanding. I knew she was overwhelmed. But I also knew that she had passed on an opportunity to change her circumstances. And now it felt like I was paying the price for her choice. One weekend, we had friends over for a small BBQ. It was supposed to be relaxing. Some food, some drinks, some kids running around the backyard. But at one point, one of our friends casually asked Lauren, "Hey, didn't you have a chance to work with Matt's school district? What happened with that?" Lauren laughed, but there was tension in her voice. "Oh, that? Yeah, I decided it wasn't for me. Too many rules. I like being where I am." The friend nodded, but I could feel the shift in the air. Later that night, after everyone left, Lauren snapped at me in the kitchen. "Why didn't you back me up when she asked about the job?" "I didn't say anything," I replied. "Exactly," she shot back. "You just stood there, like you agree with them." "I didn't agree with anyone," I said. "But you're the one who made the choice. You shouldn't feel defensive if you stand by it." She looked like I'd slapped her. "I gave up a lot to stay where I am," she said quietly. "I chose to do what felt right." "I know," I said, "and I'm trying to respect that, but you have to understand. It affects more than just you." She didn't respond, just left the room. And I was left standing there wondering how we got so far apart. It's been several months since that night in the kitchen, since the barbecue, since I realized how deeply this unspoken resentment had rooted itself in both of us. We still haven't really talked about it, not directly. But it's there, in the way we pass each other in the hallway, in how she says, "I'm fine," when she's clearly not, in how I start to say something but swallow it back down. The truth is, I'm not angry that she made a choice. I'm angry that she won't take responsibility for the consequences of that choice. She says she's exhausted, but she could have had rest. She says she's overwhelmed, but she could have had balance. She says she misses time with the kids, but she could have had that time. Instead, she chose her current job, her current boss, her current stress. And I chose silence. Sometimes I wonder, what if I had pushed harder back then? What if I had said, "You need to take this job, not just for you, but for us"? Would that have been controlling? Would that have made me a jerk? Or would it have saved us months of quiet bitterness? I also think about what life would look like now if she had said yes. We'd wake up at the same time each morning, share coffee, prep breakfast for the kids, get them ready without the usual chaos. I'd head to my classroom, she to her therapy sessions at the school. We'd have lunch breaks at the same time, talk during the day, maybe even carpool once in a while. When school let out, we'd both be home by 3:30. We'd spend the afternoons at the park, help the kids with early learning activities, cook dinner together, have energy to talk, to laugh, to be a couple, not just co-parents. We'd plan summer road trips, long weekends, holiday getaways. She wouldn't need that Friday side gig just to keep up with expenses. We could breathe. But instead, the weekends are mostly her catching up on chores or collapsing on the couch with a headache. She barely smiles these days. She's too tired to laugh. I miss the sound of her laughter. There's one more thing I haven't mentioned. Her boss. Let's call him Eric. Eric comes up in conversation a lot. Too much. Eric said this, or Eric thinks that, or Eric gave me a great idea for a new patient routine. At first, I didn't think much of it, but the frequency started to bother me. Then I saw them one afternoon, when I dropped by her clinic unannounced to bring her lunch. They were talking in the hallway. It didn't look inappropriate, but it also didn't look like just work. She laughed at something he said. Really laughed. That kind of laugh I haven't heard at home in months. She didn't see me, and I didn't say anything. I just quietly turned around, left the lunch at the front desk, and drove away. Was I overreacting? Maybe, but the seed of doubt had already been planted. And it's grown roots. Look, I don't think she's cheating, but I do think she admires Eric in a way she doesn't admire me anymore. And that's the kind of thing that keeps you up at night. So here I am, months later, still holding on to this pain and unsure of what to do with it. We're not in crisis, but we're not okay either. We function, but we don't flourish. We speak, but rarely connect. We exist side by side, but the emotional distance grows. And here's the part that keeps me awake at night. She had the power to change things, and she didn't. I gave her space, and in that space we grew further apart. Maybe I should have spoken louder. Maybe silence wasn't kindness. It was surrender. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Love without alignment can become resentment. I don't think she's a bad person. I don't think I am either. But we both made choices, and now we're living in the consequences. So I ask you, who's really at fault here? The woman who followed her heart, or the man who stayed quiet until his own heart started to fracture? Maybe tomorrow I'll talk to her. Really talk. Not to win an argument, but to salvage what's left of us. And if you've made it this far, thanks for listening. Sometimes, the loudest cries for help sound like quiet confessions.